I just got back from Kyoto and I can kind of see why some people have a bad experience here, but it was one of my favorite places ever, and I think that's because I knew how to approach it. So I'm going to share everything I wish I would have known before visiting. I'm going to talk about some common tourist traps, best spots for food, some overrated and underrated places, and where to base yourself if you want to avoid the crowds and kind of create that magical experience. So first thing to note, don't underestimate the size of this city. I think a lot of people online make Kyoto sound like this really small, charming place, and it is really charming, but it's much bigger than you probably realize. And because of that, I think a lot of tourists end up thinking, hey, I don't need to do a lot of planning ahead of time. I'll just figure it out when I get there. Small city, how hard can it be, right? Well, I think that's a bit of a mistake, and I'm gonna help you try to plan effectively. But the second tip is don't rush through this place. A lot of people also think, hey, this is a 1 day, maybe 2 day spot. And sure, of course, you can see the highlights in that period of time, but there's so much to see in the city. I think you'll find the more time you have and the slower you can tackle this city, the more magical that experience is gonna be. So keep that in mind. Now, another mistake that I made, and I just didn't realize coming from Tokyo, the public transit here isn't quite as robust. It's not as well connected, and there are a lot more buses, which aren't always the most efficient. You only have 2 main subway lines, one that cuts north to south, one that cuts east to west. So don't rely as much on the public transit. You're probably going to be doing a little bit more walking than you would in a city like Tokyo, and you are going to have to use some buses if you're going to rely on that transit. Now, if you're short on time and the public transit just isn't going to get you there quick enough, there are tons of taxis around, but my tip here is just use Uber if you're coming from the US or somewhere where Uber is normal for you. You can do all your payment processing on there, but Uber will just call a local taxi. So super simple. I had a really easy experience with that. Now, another mistake that I totally made here is I just didn't realize how late things open and early things actually close. Where it really trips tourists up is they say, hey, if something's not open until 10, I'm just not going to start my day until 10 or 11 a.m. Don't do that unless you're good with all the crowds. But if you want to avoid the crowds, start your day at 7, 8 a.m. before those crowds get out there. And also while everybody is eating dinner, that's another great time to just wander the city. Late nights are great, especially when it gets dark. Things really calm down. So just recognize that this is one of those places where if you can get off of that crowd schedule, man, you're really going to be rewarded in a special way. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and I think so many other tourists do this as well, is you think Kyoto and you think, hey, there's shrines, there's temples. I got to go see the best ones, right? Which ones are the top ones? Don't approach it like that. In fact, you easily overdo it. There's so many to see that if you're just trying to go from point A to point B and see all those top ones, you're probably going to wear yourself out. What I recommend instead is just schedule a 2 to 3 hour window where you're saying, hey, I'm just going to wander and I'm going to go into whichever shrine or temple I come across that seems interesting. I think if you take that approach of saying, hey, I'm going to go off and make my own experience rather than following somebody else's agenda, I think you're going to find it a bit more meaningful. So have that context. But let's talk about some food recommendations because, the food is fantastic here. Couple things to note. I'm going to give you a few specific highlights, but if you want all my food recommendations, I made a free digital download guide that has everything, including some of the spots that I'll mention later in this video. So feel free to pick it up. You can scan the QR code or there's a link in the description. It's completely free, so hope it's helpful for you. When you are planning meals, if you're looking to make reservations, which I do recommend, there's an app called Tabelog here in Japan, and it's what all the locals will use. It is going to be in Japanese, but if you just translate it to English, it can be wildly helpful. You can make all your reservations through there, and you can check the reviews there to make sure a place is going to be up to standard. But my first recommendation is if you're looking for that great bowl of ramen, which you should absolutely do here in Kyoto, there's a spot called Noodle Shop Renosoke, and this place is phenomenal, and they specialize in ramen, specifically the Kyoto duck loin ramen, which is really unique. It's a bit thicker than your typical ramen, and it's something you should definitely try. I highly recommend it. Now, if you're looking for a slightly fancier meal in a spot where you can try multiple different dishes that will kind of introduce you to the Kyoto cuisine, there's a spot called Ryoria Otaya, and I probably botched the pronunciation, but this place is well worth your time. Portion sizes are smaller, think kind of like tapas style, but it means you can try so many different things, and everything that they do was done at a really high quality level. Probably our most memorable meal, not only in Kyoto, but in our entire time in Japan. Now, another top spot is called Wife and Husband, and This is actually a coffee shop, but it is so different than your typical coffee shop experience. Oh, where to begin? The story is incredible. I'll let you read about that when you actually go, but do yourself a favor and make a reservation. Yes, you need a reservation at this place. You can't just walk in, and they sell out every single day because it's that popular, but this is a real hidden gem. It's up in a local area of town. It is so peaceful, so cute. Everything is done in such high quality, and if the weather is nice, you have the opportunity to not just eat in the coffee shop, but they'll actually pack you a little picnic, and you can go and sit along the river, and it's phenomenal. This place is like as close to perfection as you're gonna get in my mind, so I highly recommend it. If you're looking for a more traditional coffee shop, there's a spot called Story that probably had the best pull of espresso I'd ever had. Really kind barista and just a great environment, again, in a local area. You won't be disappointed there. If you're looking for more of another experience, there's a spot called Clea, and this spot has both coffee and tea. Kind of think like a tea time experience. Great cheesecake and just all kinds of small treats. It was a real joy, and I definitely recommend them. Again, in a local area of town, kind of tucked away, one of those magical spots that was well worth visiting. And I'd probably be screwing up if I didn't give you at least one matcha place. So there's this spot called X Cafe, and think of it as, yes, you can get coffee or matcha, but they also allow you to kind of like roast your own dumplings, like the sweet kinds, right at your table. And it's a huge place, but they managed to give you like a ton of privacy, and just, it ends up being a really intimate setting. It was really special, just a unique experience that I think you'll probably enjoy. And all my other coffee recommendations, again, in that digital guide. But let's talk about some overrated and underrated places. The first is Arashiyama, and this is an area of town that a lot of tourists are going to venture over to. And I think there's a lot of good happening here and also a lot of bad. So I'm going to say overall, it's kind of either overrated or underrated. So let's go into some specific details here. The first is the bamboo forest over there. And guys, this place is so overrated. Everybody on social media makes it seem so peaceful and just like, oh my gosh, the bamboo, it's fantastic. And yes, it is really cool to see, but I cannot express how many tourists are there and how terrible of an experience it was for us. It was just one of those places that it felt like everybody was just going there for the picture, so nobody's really looking around. Everybody's just kind of like waiting in lines to get their shots, and I get it. We all want those cool shots, but this was not a hidden gem, so have that context. Now, if you do go visit that bamboo forest, you're probably going to stumble across Tenryuji, and this is a temple, and it is beautiful. You do have to pay a few dollars to get in there, and I'm going to say it's kind of a mixed experience. There are a lot of tourists. It is beautiful. The grounds are spectacular to walk. We really did enjoy it. But the place that I'd say is a bit more underrated compared to this spot is if you walk up to the top of Bamboo Forest, there's a paid garden called the Okochi Sanzo Garden. And this place, definitely on the underrated list. It was beautiful. And yes, there will be some tourists in there, but you're going to pay money and you're going to get to walk through like a well-curated experience. We had a blast just walking the path and just kind of enjoying everything at that slow pace. Now, if you do decide to go and pay the money for that, don't miss this building up at the top. A lot of tourists don't make it all the way up there. It is beautiful. And yes, you can go inside. You're going to have to slip your shoes off, but just incredibly peaceful. I'm not going to ruin the story and kind of the meaning of that building. You can learn about it there, but that really was special to us. So I would recommend it. Now, this next spot is also right up there near the bamboo forest. It's completely free, beautiful view overlooking this ravine and river. Like, it's worth your time if you're going to go up there. So just have that in mind. Now, another spot in that area that a lot of tourists have a question about is Monkey Park. It's worth it depending on what you're looking for. A couple things to note about this place. One is that you are going to have to hike up there. It takes about 15-20 minutes, depending on how quick you go up, but it is pretty steep, so have that context in mind. Also note that once you get up there, the monkeys are just roaming. These are wild monkeys. Now, it is very safe, and there are a lot of staff up there helping curate everything, so it felt perfectly safe. And you can go inside, and if you have a little bit of cash, you can buy food to feed the monkeys. You'll be on this like inside of the building, feeding them through like a caged environment. So again, you'll be safe. We enjoyed it. I'm also an animal person, so I enjoy being around wildlife. And also the view up there was tremendous. I mean, you overlook basically all of Kyoto, so the views itself are very beautiful. But if you're somebody who doesn't really like hikes and you're saying, I could take or leave seeing monkeys, then I'd probably say skip this one, save your money, it's not gonna be your thing. Now, this next spot you're gonna end up at, and it's the Nishiki Market. I have mixed thoughts. It's obviously very historical, very cool to see. have the context that every tourist is going to be there. And because of that, every vendor is kind of looking to take advantage of tourists just a little bit. So I'm not trying to deter you from going there. You should definitely go and see it. Maybe just limit the amount of time that you spend there and be careful about what you spend your money on and be ready for crowds of tourists. Now, I like to find the more local places. So if you are looking for a big market street like that, there's a spot called the Sanjo Shopping Street. And this is in a much more local area of town, not too far away. And tourists mostly miss this one. Yes, you're still going to have some tourist spillover, but this is the spot where locals are actually going to be going and hanging out. That might be a better spot for you to check out. Now, next up is the National Garden that's kind of embedded in the Imperial Palace, and mixed reviews on this place as well. One, it's free, which is great. I will say if you are into history and want to learn about the Imperial Palace, it's hands down an experience that you're going to want to do. And it kind of felt like you were being toured around from point A to point B, and you don't have total freedom to just go and explore the gardens like you do in some other spots. So have that context in mind, but nothing wrong with it. Now, if you're looking for a garden that is going to be a little less touristy, or at least limit the amount of people that are in there at once, there's a spot called the Murin Garden, and this place is just beautiful. It is small, but it packs a punch. You do have to pay to get in. Probably the most beautiful garden that we saw in our entire time in Japan. I mean, it was just stunning. So I don't think you're going to be disappointed there. Next up, we have one of the most popular spots in town, the Kiyomizu-dera. And this place is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's stunning, and every tourist is going to go there to see it. Have the context that every tourist is going to go there to see it. And the whole geisha district, it's beautiful. It's really unique. It's what so many people think of when they think of Kyoto. And because of that, pick your spots accordingly. If you go during that like rush hour time of day, which I'm going to say is from like 10 a.m. to like 6, 7 p.m., it's just going to be a madhouse. There are so many tourists. And to me, it kind of detracts from the magic. There's, again, a lot of vendors that are just catering to the tourist, and be really intentional about how you spend your time up there and when you spend your time up there. Now, I did mention that I'd give you my absolute favorite temple, and that is Kinkakuji. And this one is by no means a hidden gem, right? This is one of the big ones that everybody loves to go to. If I was going to go to just one, it would be this spot. Just beautiful grounds, and more than just going and seeing one single temple, it's kind of a curated experience where you get to walk through the guards and just kind of explore. It's just beautiful and felt the most special to me, but that doesn't mean that it's going to feel most special to you. So have that context, but I love that place. But two more underrated spots. The first is the Philosopher's Path, or Path of Philosophy. This, again, is not a hidden gem. It's going to come up on a lot of lists, but this one, even with it being touristy, is definitely underrated. A lot of tourists just won't make the effort to get up to this area of town. If you're somebody who values nature and just peaceful, quiet walking space, which, gosh, like that's just what I'm all about, you're gonna love this place. You can spend as much or as little time as you want just walking along this stream/river. It's just so beautiful, hugged right up against the hills, and just, again, one of those really peaceful, just special moments that I really think that you'll enjoy, and it can be enjoyed at pretty much any hour of the day. So have that context. It is underrated. The other spot that is definitely underrated to me is the Kamo River. And if you just follow it up, walk north, the further up you push away from where the tourists are, the more peaceful, the more special it gets. This place is just beautiful. You could spend really a full afternoon just walking and taking the path straight up. It's just going to provide you that more local experience away from where all the tourists are hanging out in the geisha district. Now, another spot that pretty much every tourist is going to ask about is Nara Park. Should you do a day trip up to Nara? I'm going to say yes. I will say have the context that if you are short on time, if you're only in Kyoto for a day or two, stay in Kyoto. If you do have a longer period of time, I've got no problem with Nara Park. Everybody's going up there to see the deer, and it really is a special interaction. But if you are going to go up there, do recognize that there's more to just Nara than Nara Park. It's a beautiful spot, and I screwed up on not spending enough time up there. So that was a mistake that I hope that you can avoid. Second is that a lot of the deer, they're a bit more aggressive in the early mornings. They calm down at night after they're well fed. So if you are going to go do that, just be sure to use your common sense and not get bit by a deer, and respect them. They are wild animals, and respect the people of Nara, because gosh, it must just be challenging to have your city turn into a total tourist attraction for this incredibly special thing they have, but be cognizant of those folks. Now, let's talk about some of the areas of town that you might want to stay. A couple top ones is everyone's going to say, hey, how about the Geisha district? I'm going to say nothing wrong with this area. It is historic. It's quintessential Kyoto. It's not for me because it doesn't feel the most local and it's still going to be dominated by the tourist. I just think if you're looking for that magical, peaceful Kyoto environment, there's some better spots, but it's totally fine if you're comfortable and you want to be in the center of all the action. Probably great if you're short on time as well. Another area that's circled right here is kind of what I'm calling the business district of Kyoto. And this is the very modern area. And again, is going to put you in great proximity to a lot of the things that most tourists are going to want to see. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this area either. Again, modern infrastructure, everything is going to be close proximity, very comfortable for your average Westerner. Now, it's a great option if you're just looking for that comfort and again, are probably shorter on time. If you're looking for that magic charm and you just want that really authentic Japanese experience, I'm probably not going to say this is the top spot, but there's nothing wrong with it. Just again, have that context. Now, if you're wondering where I stayed and where I will stay in the future, it's going to be one of these areas. I stayed in this one during my first trip, but I'm comfortable in any of these spots for a couple of reasons. One, these are just the spots that are a little bit more local, going to have that more charming, quiet experience that I value. But the other reason is you'll notice that these are closer to those main metro stops. I just think you'd be doing yourself a huge favor by setting yourself up in closer proximity to one of those main metro lines so you can still access things in a reasonable amount of time. That's what we did, and it was perfect. We got that real experience and we absolutely loved it. Just recognize that there is no right or wrong place to stay. It just depends on what you value, so you can use all of that as a frame of reference. Now, one really important tip is if you're going to be going from Kyoto up to Tokyo on the bullet train, make sure you book your seat on the left side of the train, because if you're on the right side, you're going to miss Mount Fuji when you pass it. And I don't want you to miss that. It's just a beautiful view. So make sure to do that. And if you are going to Tokyo, you might get use out of this video right here. It's all the tips and mistakes that I made while I was up in Tokyo. So I hope that's helpful. And if you want just my unfiltered thoughts on my time in Japan, you can watch this one right here. I hope all this was helpful, and we'll catch you guys next time.